Hi everyone. So I just wanted to come on here and say a few words about the British director Terence Davies, who passed away just a few days ago on the 7th of October, aged 77. Now, Terence Davies might be a bit of a hard sell for modern audiences. Most of his films were either very personal and autobiographical in nature, connected with his childhood and upbringing in Liverpool, or else in later years he was making sort of literary adaptations from literary figures and poets who really weren't widely recognised or appreciated in their time. So people like Emily Dickinson and the World War I poet Siegfried Sassoon. So not exactly the kind of stuff that's going to have you running towards the cinemas to queue in line to go and see these films. But yeah, Terence Davies is definitely worth some attention here. Now, Terence Davies, this collection here is brought out by the BFI, covering his earlier very personal autobiographical films. And one of the films that's included on this set is this one, The Long Day Closes, which is a film that you can also get via the Criterion collection. The Long Day Closes is a film that's very much focused on Terence Davies's childhood in Liverpool, the happiness that he experienced with his mother, a very religious woman, but also contrasted with his difficult times at going to a Catholic school and being bullied. But this is also a time when he was getting some escapism by discovering the delights of cinema. Now, Terence Davies was born in 1945 in Liverpool, and yeah, he had a very stern, abusive father who died of cancer when Terence was only 7. Like I say, his mother is someone that he really doted on and loved very dearly, and then in adolescence, he realised that he was a gay man. He had a mostly celibate lifestyle. He didn't establish any sort of formal relationships. And he really rejected the monarchy. He rejected Catholicism. He rejected really modern culture. For him, music, it seems to have ended at the time when the Beatles came on the scene. So all of that makes it a little bit difficult for modern audiences to really appreciate his standpoint. But like I say, it definitely is worth looking at some of Terence Davies's films to really see what he achieves as a filmmaker. Now, I don't want to get too much into going through a whole filmography here, and I'll just briefly skim through the Terence Davies trilogy. This is his starting point. So his first film was in 1976. It was the film Children, which he followed up with Madonna and Child, and then Death and Transfiguration in 1983. So these are very, very personal films about his childhood, his discovering that he's gay, and dealing with abuse and the difficulties of being in a Catholic school. So yeah, there's a lot of misery, if you like, in these, but also this is just a very emotional starting point to Terence Davies as a filmmaker. And the key thing about all of Terence Davies's films is the emotion that he is able to apply to both good and bad memories. He has very vivid memories of times in his life, which he portrays in his films, and he really gets the emotional attachment to them. And he does that a lot by using music and very still shots. So a lot of his camera work is very still. It's either a direct shot that will linger for quite some time, or else it's these panning shots that go from left to right or right to left, up and down. So yeah, there's not a huge amount of editing in Terence Davies films, but yeah, this slow sense of just absorbing the scene, and then like I say, sometimes he will apply music to it. Really, the first time for me that it becomes really noticeable, his use of music, is in Death and Transfiguration, which opens with a Doris Day song, It All Depends on You, which is played during a funeral scene. Very, very affecting. Then we get on to the two which I guess are really regarded as being perhaps the real classics from Terence Davies, Distant Voices, Still Lives, and The Long Day Closes. So yeah, very, very autobiographical in nature about his childhood in Liverpool. Distant Voices, Still Lives, particularly focusing on the abusive nature of his father, and then The Long Day Closes, a perhaps more accessible film, I suppose, because it's focusing a little bit more on some of the happier childhood memories, but also contrasting it with the difficulties of being bullied as well. But really, the film I want to just focus on for the moment is this one, Of Time and the City, which came out in 2008. And I just think this film is absolutely fascinating. Now, the thing with this film is there's not actually much camera work that is done by Terence Davies in this film. So basically, the behind the scenes of this film is that in 2008 the city of Liverpool was made a European City of Culture, and so there was a grant given, I think it was 300,000, to be able to put together a film to try and commemorate the city, and the producer Papadopoulos was able to get in touch with Terence Davies and get him to agree to make this film. So 300,000 budget is absolutely tiny. I mean, it's just a sort of catering budget for a modern blockbuster. But what they were able to do here is be able to get an archivist to trawl through lots and lots of historical material to be able to find out what footage they could get of Liverpool, and then Terence Davies would be involved in making the choices about which bits of footage to use. So 85% of the movie is taken up with archive footage, and then about 15% of the movie is just some modern day shots of buildings and young people out on the town and things like that. But yeah, this is a really, really emotional film. Now you may think, okay, I've never lived in Liverpool. I have no connection with Liverpool. Why would I want to see this? It's not of interest to me. But again, just to see what a filmmaker actually does with the material is really fascinating here. So what Terence Davies has done with this, I mean, obviously he grew up in Liverpool, so he has vivid memories and vivid personal recollections of his time in Liverpool. But he doesn't just do a straightforward narration, if you like, of how Liverpool developed and changed over time. He makes it so personal, and he uses bits of poetry, bits of readings from literature, and some amazing selections of music in this. I mean, the music in this is absolutely astonishing. So again, like I say, he does reject modern music, and it's quite amusing actually that there's a scene where he shows the Beatles coming to the cavern there, but rather than having any sound footage of the Beatles at all, he puts an orchestral piece of music over that, which is and it works really well. It's amazing, but it's just an interesting choice that he makes. But yeah, it's the music that really makes this film so emotional, I think, and the choices that he makes, which are really, really considered choices. He has an operatic piece sung by Angela Georgiou at one point. He uses the Hollies' He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, when guys are going off to fight in the Korean War. He uses Peggy Lee's The Folks Who Live on the Hill, when looking at how architecture has changed over time, and then he uses a guitar concerto from Narciso Yepes, which is just beautiful, and then finally he uses Wagner's Symphony No. 2 in C minor. He uses excerpts of that 3 different times throughout the film, and it's all just links in so perfectly with the images. And then, like I say, you've got this very, very strong narration from Terence Davies as well, where it's not a formal narration. It's using bits of poetry, it's using bits of excerpts from classic literature that he's enjoyed. So all of this just makes it incredibly personal as a portrait of the city for him, and so that, I think, is what really makes Of Time and the City perhaps the ultimate Terence Davies film, and a film to look at if you just want to get a sense of the man and a sense of his interests, because it really comes out here. There's sort of some playfulness in this, as well as some sort of biting comments about the monarchy and things of that nature. So yeah, Of Time in the City for me is the film that I responded to most of all emotionally out of all of his films. But yeah, definitely Distant Voices, Still Lives, and The Long Day Closes have some stunning sequences in them, and again, just beautiful music choices. So those are the key things out of Terence Davies films. It's this emotion that he can bring out based on specific vivid memories, that's really key in his work. And then after this film was released, he was thinking that he might not get opportunities to make any more films because the funding just wasn't there for them. But at that time he thought maybe he had about 3 more films in him. As it turned out, he got to make 4 more films, but all of those are kind of literary works, if you like. So he made The Deep Blue Sea, which is adapted from a Terence Rattigan play. And perhaps, I suppose, that would be the most commercial out of all of the films that he's made, because Terence Rattigan has been adapted in cinema previously in films such as The VIPs, The Yellow Rolls Royce, Separate Tables, the Browning version, a few works like that. So Terence Rattigan is probably the most popular in terms of his film choices. But then other films that he made was Sunset Song, which was from a book by Lewis Grassic Gibbon. I've not read that book. He made A Quiet Passion, which was written about the poet Emily Dickinson, and his final film that was released in 2021 was Benediction, which was written about the World War I poet Siegfried Sassoon. So yes, all of these films, like I say, all link back to the past. There's nothing modern in any of Terence Davies's films. So it does make me wonder how fondly Terence Davies films will be remembered, and whether modern audiences will go and choose to seek them out and watch them. Perhaps if you haven't already seen a Terence Davies film, will you go and seek one out? I don't know. But definitely in terms of just getting to understand what he can do as a filmmaker, then I think Of Time in the City is just a fantastic example of that. A minimal budget, 300,000, footage which isn't his own, and yet he's managed to make it so incredibly personal by using specific bits of literature, wordings and music, and so it's just fascinating to see what someone can do just to take something ordinary, if you like, and then make it so unique. Okay, well, if you've made it this far, then thanks very much for watching. Perhaps if you've seen some of the later career Terence Davies films that included Deep Blue Sea and Benediction and Sunset Song, let me know, because I've yet to see those films. I have seen A Quiet Passion, the film that he made about Emily Dickinson, but not those other ones yet. So, yeah. If you're interested in Terence Davies, then I'm sure there are far better worded tributes out there than I just provided. But yeah, let me know if you do have interest in this director and if you intend to see any of his films. Thanks very much for watching, and all the best to you. I hope to join you again on some more videos. Bye-bye.